Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into another NFL Offseason Rumors update. Want to get to this Deshaun Watson thing. Turns out the Browns didn't have to give up any young players for Watson. It was just the draft picks. Want to get to some other stuff, but just taking a look at the way this deal is structured. Will Deshaun Watson be suspended? I think that's one of the big reasons why the Houston Texans didn't have the leverage to ask for potentially more when it comes to assets for Deshaun Watson. They only ended up getting the 3 first-round picks. I believe they got a second-round pick and a third-round pick. The Browns did keep their second-round pick this year, so they only lost their first-round pick. They've got their second-round pick. That's going to be very key to pay attention to, depending on what happens with Jadeveon Clowney, depending on what happens with Will Fuller. The Browns in the market for Will Fuller, possibly. I wanted them to get Robert Woods. That was a great trade by Tennessee, getting Robert Woods for a 6th-round pick. We're going to discuss that. But the Deshaun Watson thing, getting a little bit of a pay raise, and I don't really want to, get into this too much, but, part of that is probably to pay off some of these women in these civil suits. And if you're Deshaun Watson, you go up to these women and you say, listen, I'll give you $3 million to shut up. And, you might get the problem to go away. But will Deshaun Watson be suspended is the question. Many people anticipating Deshaun Watson. I've heard anywhere from 4 to 10 games. It could potentially be the suspension for Deshaun Watson. He wasn't charged with anything. These are now just civil suits, but the NFL is doing their own independent investigation. So that's where the situation stands. It's a 5-year, $230 million deal for Deshaun Watson. And we had heard the reported asking price for Watson was, those 3 first-round picks plus 2 or 3 more young, controllable assets. They were not able to get that because they didn't have the leverage. The Houston Texans were in a very unique position where Deshaun Watson is the one demanding the trade, but Deshaun Watson also is the one that can choose where he's going because he has a no-trade clause. So what a weird situation that was, but he ends up, making the stunner, pulling it off, going to the Browns. And the Cleveland Browns, I said this before, this is a super team. This is a complete super team. And there are reports the Browns are looking to re-sign Jadeveon Clowney, which would be so massive. Because if they're able to re-sign Jadeveon Clowney, that would alleviate the need for a pass rusher opposite Myles Garrett. You wouldn't have to invest a 2nd-round pick on a pass rusher. You could use that 2nd-round pick to get someone like David Bell, the receiver that I love from Purdue. So if I was the Browns, that's what I would be doing. We'll have to see if they're able to re-sign Clowney. They're doing a lot of different things with salary cap, restructuring contracts. They were actually able to trade Case Keenum and not have to eat some of his dead money by cutting him. They were somehow able to get rid of his contract and trade him for a 7th-round pick to the Buffalo Bills. I have no clue what the Bills scouting department was doing trading for Case Keenum. He's not even a good backup at this point. On a $7 or $8 million deal, I guess if you got the salary cap room, he's an okay backup, but Case Keenum has a dead arm. I am shocked the Browns were able to get rid of Case Keenum to where they don't have to eat any dead money. If they would have cut Case Keenum, they would have had about $2 million in dead money. So they save a total of $7 million with that move, cutting Case Keenum. And now you've got the Robert Woods trade for a 6th-round pick. What a deal by Tennessee. You release Julio Jones, you get Robert Woods. Yes, it's a bit of a gamble coming off an injury, but Robert Woods is a very legitimate, good wide receiver number 2. You pair him with A.J. Brown. That alleviates the need for a receiver if you are Tennessee. I thought that was such a great trade by them, and now it looks like the Browns want to get in on the Will Fuller sweepstakes. You could get him possibly for... You could sign him. He's a free agent right now for possibly pennies on the dollar considering his injury history. Personally, as a Browns fan, Will Fuller, that's not someone that really excites me. I'm not going to lie to you guys. The injury concerns. It's almost like you're waiting for him to get injured. He's just gotten injured basically every year of his career, although he does have that nice rapport with Deshaun Watson. They've had a number of big games when they played together in Houston. So maybe Watson wants Will Fuller. You sign him, and then I would still honestly draft another receiver because you're still just looking at, Amari Cooper. You're looking at that at that point, Will Fuller. He's injury prone, and then you've got Donovan Peoples-Jones, and then there is the idea of bringing back Jarvis Landry. Now, personally, it's time to just move on from Jarvis Landry. I'm going to be honest with you guys. As a Browns fan, can we just move on? It sounds like they want to bring him back. I don't know. On a short-term, smaller deal, I think Jarvis Landry at this point is pretty much washed. He shies away from contact, but maybe as a veteran leader, we'll have to see if they bring him in. But just getting to some other news, it was reported that Baker Mayfield does want to be traded to the Indianapolis Colts, and the Browns are looking for a day 2 pick in exchange for Baker Mayfield. A lot of the speculation there, it being a 3rd-round pick. I would love if the Browns could somehow get a 2nd-round pick, but I'm guessing for Baker, the Browns have zero leverage. They traded for Deshaun Watson. It's quite clear they want to get rid of Baker Mayfield, unless maybe there is that scenario out there where Deshaun Watson gets suspended for 8 to 10 games. Does Baker Mayfield start those games? It's not going to happen. Baker Mayfield is going to demand a trade. Apparently, he was willing to sit out, training camp if he wasn't traded. So this is a serious thing. That's what it was being reported, that Baker Mayfield was not going to report. He was not going to be in team activities. He was not going to do anything until he got traded, whether the Browns got Deshaun Watson or not. It was, there were the rumors that the Browns were completely out of it for Deshaun Watson. It was down to the New Orleans Saints and the Falcons. And even after that, Baker's like, I'm still demanding a trade. I still want out of here because they treated him so poorly. Now he wants to go to the Indianapolis Colts, which, funny enough, if Baker started next year for Indianapolis, it would be a very similar situation to the one he, had with Cleveland, where you've got a great offensive line, you've got a great running game, but the receiving core, not the best. Michael Pittman is good. Paris Campbell is a question mark. Zach Pascal, I believe, is a free agent. I'm not sure if they re-signed him. I don't think they did. I haven't heard anything about him. But the receiving game, you need at least another really good receiver. And the problem for Indianapolis right now is if you traded with a team like Indianapolis, I do not think they would want to give up their 2nd-round pick for Baker, considering they don't even have a 1st-round pick. They lost their 1st-round pick in the Carson Wentz trade. So it would probably be for a 3rd-round pick. And that situation for Baker, very similar situation to the one he had in Cleveland. The receiving core is a little lacking, but he's got a great running game. He'd have Jonathan Taylor and a great offensive line, although I would say the Browns' offensive line is a little bit better than the Colts. Both of them are top 5 offensive lines in the NFL. So Baker Mayfield, if you're Baker Mayfield and his agent, I would be extremely excited to potentially start for Indianapolis for 1 year and try and earn another contract. Indianapolis is looking for a franchise quarterback. I'm not saying Baker Mayfield is going to be their franchise quarterback, but if you're Baker, that's a phenomenal situation. And then the other team that's been rumored for Baker is the Seattle Seahawks. Would the Seattle Seahawks give up a 2nd-round pick for Baker, considering they have 2 2nd-round picks now, one coming from the Russell Wilson trade? Maybe they're more enticed to give up a 2nd-round pick, and they outbid the Colts for Baker Mayfield. So right now, those are the 2 teams to watch. Where will Baker Mayfield play next year? It looks like either Indianapolis or Seattle have been the 2 rumored teams. And guys, we've got updates. We've got Fletcher Cox re-signing with Philadelphia on a 1-year, $14 million deal. We've got the Cleveland Browns in the market for a big defensive tackle. You take a look at the Browns' team needs. I would go, if you're able to re-sign Jadeveon Clowney, the biggest needs are a receiver, and then the second biggest need is an interior defensive tackle. The Browns have a young defensive tackle right now, Tommy Togiai. He's decent, but you need some more girth. You need someone up the middle, maybe even another athletic linebacker, although they were able to re-sign Anthony Walker, I believe, and I like him a lot. I think he's underrated, but I would go, you need a big DT. If you re-sign Clowney, get yourself a big defensive tackle, sign a vet like an Akeem Hicks, and then you really do need another receiver. Even if you get someone like Will Fuller or Jarvis Landry, you're going to need someone. I would be extremely, happy with the Cleveland Browns if they spent that 2nd-round pick, it's 44th overall, on David Bell. So those are the 2 big situations. Just a quick update on the quarterback market. QBs that are requiring a trade. Baker Mayfield. I've talked about the rumor teams for him. And then Jimmy G. The only rumors I've heard about Jimmy G are the Indianapolis Colts. But again, maybe the Colts want to go Baker. Baker's got a higher ceiling, so we'll see what happens there. Free agent quarterbacks still left. You've still got Jameis Winston. You've got Mariota, and then Andy Dalton. I think Andy Dalton would be a backup. Jameis and Mariota could start, maybe. Colts, Saints, Seahawks, and Panthers still looking for a quarterback. The Colts, I believe, will either trade or sign one of those guys. Maybe the Saints draft a rookie. Seahawks probably will trade for one of those guys as well. And then the Panthers, there's some significant smoke coming out that Carolina loves Malik Willis, the young quarterback in the 2022 draft, and they have the 6th overall pick, and they might just take Malik Willis with the number 6 overall pick. Those are the rumors coming out of Carolina that I've heard, and I've seen that in several mock drafts with Malik Willis, the Liberty quarterback who is in the 2022 draft class, going to Carolina as their first-round pick. Also, another quick thing on the draft, just news you hate to see, David Ojabo, a defensive pass rusher from Michigan, mocked inside most, top 15, top 20, has a torn ACL. He suffered it at the Michigan Pro Day. I believe that was what it was, a torn ACL. So that's going to bump him down the boards a little bit. I still think he has a pretty good chance of going in round 1, but that's definitely going to affect your draft stock. Even if he recovers completely, teams just do not want to draft injured players like that. It's not going to kill him. I still think he's got a good chance to go round 1 later in round 1, but it is going to be a negative effect on his draft stock. So guys, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on Twitter. Link to that's always in the description.